I apologize for not uploading another part of the tornado series, but today we're going to talk about the Reno Tornado, which hit on May 31st of 2013. I was only 14 years old when that happened. It was also appeared on Storm Chasers, the TV show. It's not on the show anymore. It's not a running show anymore because Tim Samara just decided to cancel it because he believed that they just wanted the drama of it instead of actual, hunt the tornadoes. So he didn't want that. So he had the show canceled. The tornado actually was not an EF5. I thought it was an EF5 when I first heard about it, but instead it was actually an EF3, and it went as fast as 296 miles an hour, and its damage ranged in length for 16.2 miles. It did 35 to 40 million dollars worth of damage. It lasted 40 minutes on the ground, and it unfortunately killed 3 storm chasers, a father and son, which were Tim and Paul Samara. Tim was 55 years of age, and Tim was 55. And Paul Young was other part, but Tim, Tim and Paul. Paul was 24 years old, and Carl Young, who was also part of the team that they were part of, which was Twist Tex. He was, I believe, 45 years of age. They were all killed. Unfortunately, after the tornado did occur, they found Paul's body a mile away from the car, because he and Carl were both yanked out of the car, while Tim wasn't so lucky. He was unfortunately crushed in the car, and found in the car crushed, which is very unfortunate and very sad. Death by anything is terrible. Its damage in length, though, was 16.2 miles long, and by far right now it stands as the most damaging tornado, excluding the tri-state tornado, which was before everything else. The tornado was also part of a multiple storm cell. Tim, Paul, and Carl, they unfortunately were killed by one of the vortexes, which changed direction, and that's what tossed the car, killing all 3 of them. It was also the scariest. Since Pecos recorded it the way back then too, I believe he nearly escaped death in his own right. Let's see. I believe, but yeah, I believe that's it. I covered everything for that I know of. Like obviously the sky was gray, and the clouds were again 2.6 miles long. So it produced, I believe, several other tornadoes, but the big one, which was the El Reno one, was what tore through fields, and I think it went through the highway, which was where Tim, Paul, and Carl were on, trying to escape it. But that's when the tornado changed and hit them directly. tornadoes are meant to be taken seriously, and you never, but like if you are hunting, you gotta be very, very careful because you can't underestimate a tornado. It will always win. It will always win unless you're far, far enough away. But you should still not trust it because it can change direction at any moment. Because at the end of the day, it's a giant windstorm with clouds that can suck you up. I actually even did maybe more reading actually. Is that if for some reason if you directly got sucked in by a tornado, it would literally rip, like go through your eye sockets, like all the people would go through your eye sockets and your lung cavities, and it would cause like internal bleeding. Like you'd get like internal bleeding. You'd either die from it or get severely injured and have to go to a hospital because it tears around your insides. But it's very, very disturbing. So that's why you'd be as safe as possible from a tornado. Unfortunately, I haven't seen any myself, but I'd love to. Actually, that's not true. I saw an EF1 when I was in the desert, but that's about it. I will try to do these more frequent. I'm gonna cover probably most historical ones, but if I do find anything interesting, like going through that, the information for the Reno, I found another tornado which was over like a bridge, which was about 302 miles an hour, which is fascinating. But maybe I might do two next time because I'm just summarizing everything I did. Yeah. Unfortunately, I did have to write it down because, I just want to go like here going, just not knowing. So I didn't have to write down. Yep. Oh, I guess I can add this too, I suppose, is that, it was on a Friday. Well, I think it was like 5 p.m. 5 p.m. on a Friday in Oklahoma, which is why Albino is in Oklahoma. And that's where it surfaced over a field and then ranged through and went through highways, causing devastating damage, 16 miles long of damage. Just insane. I would be freaking terrified if I saw that with my own eyes. A freaking 2.5 mile long tornado. I would be devastated, but also terrified. So, yeah, I think I might do that next time. I might just cover two. I might do the Canada tornado, the only 5 Canada tornado, which was, I believe, in can't remember on the top of my head. But I can say this though, is that tornado. Screw it, I'll just say what I know on the top of my head about it. That the Canada EF5 Canada tornado, which was happened in 2007, and it was the only EF5 Canada ever had. I can't remember the name of it, unfortunately, right now. Like it's trying to come to me. Maybe I might do a little cheat sheet. Let's see. I'm just gonna see. Oh, okay. So I did find out actually. It was called Manitoba, and it happened in Ely, Canada. And that was over a decade ago now. And that one was almost had a mind of its own. At first, it was only labeled like an EF3, but then after it did all its damage, they found video footage of a house and structure being sucked up, and then they decided to label it as decided to label it as as an EF5 because once an EF5 you lift up the structure in the base, it's automatically an EF5. But it was terrible. I believe it lasted. I didn't say that it lasted like maybe like 20 minutes. But man, like it formed in a field. It dodged a city, and then it went through fields, and I believe it knocked down a grain factory. I think it knocked out a factory, and then it turned around and went through the city of Eli. And I believe it at first it dodged some houses, but then it turned back around again. Just decided to wipe off all these houses. It actually went pretty far, and I believe it's just like maybe 5 miles. Like I traveled like for 5 miles after passing Eli. So after it went to Eli, it went another 5 miles, and just twisting and turning, going back around, looping over itself, going back what it missed, and then I don't remember any deaths. I don't think anybody did die, but I could be wrong. But it's also the thinnest EF5 tornado. It was very, very thin, which is why it was labeled as an EF3, because it wasn't big at all. It was relatively small. But yeah, I mean, Canada usually doesn't get EF5 tornadoes. They get tornadoes like in the French part, I think, like Montreal and stuff like that. But the United States gets more of them on the side, like on the Midwest and the southern parts. But like I've said, tornadoes are just fascinating. They're very fascinating, though they are scary. They are an interesting part of storm. They're an interesting storm. Hurricanes are cool too, but tornadoes are just cooler because they're just like clouds of devastation just heading in the path, just heading in paths. And the sound of a tornado sounds like a freaking like if it's an EF5, it sounds like a freaking freight train going right through wherever it formed in. Just your like a giant wind, it's wind. I believe also that I think Minnesota had their very first. It was either Minnesota or somewhere else. Minnesota had its very first tornado as well. That actually lasted 2 days, two different days, 3 different tornadoes on 3 different days. It happened in the early morning, like between 2 and 3 a.m. I believe it killed like, I think last time I looked, it was like 50 people. I feel like 50 to 100 people. But those are the most terrifying, I think, or ones that happen at night, because you can't see anything. Because, again, clouds are usually just pure blackness and darkness. It's terrible. But, because Minnesota, they didn't know how to prepare for it, because, again, they've never had a tornado before. That just goes to show that, I also found out, too, that all 50 states have tornadoes, but the least ones were Hawaii and Alaska. Yeah, Hawaii and Alaska are the ones that get the least amount of tornadoes, or have none at all recorded. Even California had one that hit the LA area back in the 80s, but I wasn't alive then. That was like an EF3, killed nobody, thankfully. So yeah, I talked about Eli, I talked about the El Reno, I kind of threw in Minnesota's kind of first tornado. I'm going to research more fast. Well, they're all fascinating, but I'm going to try to find more that catch my eye that I can talk about that are hardly talked about ones. that's what I'll do. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna throw in like 2 or 3 per. Because I don't want them to be like 5 minutes long, because that's nothing. I can just breeze right through. Next time will be, I think just from here now, will just be a surprise. Until you see the title, like this one will be the Eli. It'll be Eli, and well, first will be El Reno, Eli, and I believe Minnesota's Tornado. Well, Tornado won. Thanks for watching. If you do like what you see, even though I am still fairly new to this, and my eyes do tend to wander at times, that's something I cannot help. But if you somehow did enjoy, I guess freaking